In this video, we'll learn how to create a calculated number column in Loocey and go over the settings and options of calculated number columns. There are two ways to create a column in Loocey. We can either open the context menu of an existing column and click on Add Column to Right, then choose Calculated Number from the dropdown, or we can click on the plus sign at the end of the table, select More Options, and then choose a calculated number from the column type dropdown. Client calculation works only in your browser for quick display, while backend calculation saves the result to the database so it's always up to date. We'll look at both so you can see how each one works in action. Our first example is a simple addition. Let's say we want to know the total stock by adding what's in the warehouse and what's in the shop. We'll create two number columns, warehouse stock and shop stock, and give them some values. Now, let's add a new calculated number column, name it total stock, and in the backend calculation field, type this formula, and just like that, Loocey adds them together. Click on Add, and you'll instantly see the total based on the values you assigned. All the formulas from this video are listed in the description so you can copy and use them directly. One important thing to note, calculation code works with the internal names of your columns, not the display names. For example, here our columns have internal names like warehouse stock and shop stock. To quickly verify, just open the column settings. You'll see the internal name right there. This step is very important because if you use the wrong name, your calculation won't work. Let's update the input values and you'll see the calculation update automatically. Now, about formulas, both backend and client-side calculations are powered by popular frameworks and each has its own documentation you can check. For client-side formulas, you can click the Nunjux link and explore examples on their site. And for backend calculations, click the Scriban link to see their documentation and more advanced use cases. Next, let's calculate how much budget we have left after expenses. We'll create two columns, total budget and spent amount, and give them values. Then, we'll add a calculated number column, name it budget remaining, and in client calculation type this formula. Now we instantly see our remaining budget. Let's update the input values and you'll see the calculation update automatically. Multiplication is perfect for finding the total cost of an order. We'll create two columns, unit price and quantity, and set unit price to 12.5 and quantity to 4. Now, add a calculated number column, name it order total, and in backend calculation type this formula. This gives us the total cost automatically. Division is useful for averages, so let's find a student's average score. First, we'll add two number columns. Name the first total score and the second tests taken, then click Add. In the table, enter 270 for total score and 3 for test. Now let's create the calculated result. Click the plus at the end of the table, choose More Options, set the display name to average score and set column type to calculated number. Open backend calculation and type this formula, then click Add. Loocey calculates it immediately. 270 divided by 3 shows 90. If we change either input, the average updates in real time. This gives us the average automatically. Finally, let's calculate the completion percentage of a project. First, we'll add two number columns. Name the first completed tasks and the second total tasks, then click Add. In the table, enter 7 for completed tasks and 12 for total tasks on the first row. Now let's create the calculated column. Click the plus at the end of the table, choose More Options, set the display name to completion percent, and select calculated number as the column type. In the backend calculation field, type this formula. This formula divides completed tasks by total tasks, multiplies by 100 to get a percentage, and rounds the result to 2 decimal places. And just like before, if we change either input, the percentage updates automatically. This gives us the project's progress at a glance, with the value always shown to 2 decimal places. That's how calculated number works in Loocey. You can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, or calculate percentages, and the results will always stay up to date. Check the video description for all formulas you can copy directly. Let's look at some of the other options while adding columns. The following examples will be for string column, but the options work the same way for other types as well. You can set a default value for a string column so that it's used for all new rows created in this list. For example, if you want every new row to start with a specific label like new entry, you can enter that here. This way, each time you create a new row, the string column will automatically be filled with that unless you change it manually. Next, the required option, just like the name implies, makes a column a required field when creating or updating records. By default, the name column is required. If we want to mark the string column as required, we'll also need to set a default value. This ensures the column always has a valid entry when new records are created. If we mark another column, in this case, string, as required, the Add Item input box will change into a button link. Then, when we click on either the Add Item link or the new button at the top, the system will open a dialog showing all required column inputs. Let's add another record and enter the values for the required columns in the dialog, then click on Create. The record will be added along with the values for all the required columns. This design of keeping track of required columns helps keep our table consistent and prevents invalid data entries. The isNull flag is a somewhat technical term, which simply means that if no default value is entered, this column will allow nulls instead of a value. Again, this is a database term, and it's okay if you leave it the default. Note that when we switch off the isNull option, the default value field will become required, as now the column requires a default value. This is because if you already have data in your list and if you turn off the null option, this column will need to be populated with another value, otherwise, we would get an error in the database. That's it for today. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified when we release new tutorials. Thanks for watching and see you next time.